So if other people judging you, to you implies a lack of worth. So you've given your power away, first of all, right? You've given your self-worth away. You've made it dependent on what other people think of you or claim about you. You can see that, right? Because you just stated that. So then what's the perceived benefit in avoiding it?
The perceived benefit in avoiding it would be to keep that worth and
To keep the worth.
To not risk any of it.
To not risk to lose the worth.
Right.
Great. So that's why you judge yourself. Even when you know there's no real reason for it and it doesn't really benefit you. But there's a sneaky little assumption that it does benefit you. We don't do anything that we don't perceive as containing benefit. Impossible. So if we say we want reality X, but we continue to execute reality Y, that means reality X has a greater perceived benefit than reality Y. Now, a portion of us might want reality Y. We might realize it, that it benefits us more on some level. But still the attachment to the perceived benefit in reality X is greater. And often this has been my definition of attachment. Attachment is the perceived benefit in reality X is greater than reality Y. Than the perceived benefit in reality Y. It's that simple. What's attachment? The perceived benefit in reality X is greater than my perceived benefit in reality Y. It's that simple. So then you're not really attached, you're just a logical being. Attachment is just a result of a certain kind of logic. Now, it may not be intelligent logic, but it is logical. There's cause and effect based thinking, reasoning. So we feel attached to things only when we have something else that we want from what we have, correct? If we have what we want, we don't feel attached. Does that make sense? It's only if we want something else, or there's a threat of that being taken away, what we want, then we experience what we call attachment. But attachment is nothing but perceived benefit being greater in one thing than in the alternative. So the way to relinquish attachments, one way to relinquish attachments in a gradual path, is to understand why you perceive benefit in reality X and deconstruct it until it's dissolved, until reality Y just shines in your mind and heart as the only obvious choice that contains all the benefit you desire. And then instantly you don't experience any attachment to reality X. Now this is the theory. Of course, in practice it can be a little longer of a process, but that is the foundation of it. So anytime you hear yourself have this dialogue of I want this, but I don't want this, right? Like I want it, but for some reason I don't have it or I don't want it. Any type of inner conflict like that, inner dialogue that contradicts itself, I call it mixed frequencies, having mixed frequencies, which is very detrimental to your health and to your well-being. So you want to be a unified being. So then typically I encourage you to investigate as to what is the benefit you perceive in the thing you know is no longer serving you. And just investigate it. Don't try to let it go. Don't try to force yourself to let it go. You can sometimes. But just investigate what benefit you perceive is still there. And deconstruct it until it's like obvious. And one of the ways to deconstruct it is keep asking yourself, okay, and then what? Okay, but I think that this will give me that. Okay, and then what? Well, then this. Okay, and then what? Okay, this, then. Okay, and then what? And before you know it, you're like, yeah, I don't want it. Because every time you keep asking, and then what, it ends up into disaster anyway. Impermanence.
Thank you.
And so that's also a way to relatively gradually increase your maturity for self-realization. Because self-realization is the result, just like anything else. Getting a house, getting money is the result of desire. I mean, there's other components involved, but the core of it is desire, will, wanting it, willing it, desiring it, right? So, same with self-realization. If you want to recognize the I am for what it really is, you have to perceive there to be greater benefit in the recognition of I am as it is than in anything else. And then naturally suffering is our great teacher, no? Because suffering basically means failure of what we thought what we thought contained benefit is revealed to not contain that benefit, or to come with a whole lot of things that counteract the benefit, that make the benefit not worth it. And then we mature. Now, if we mature somehow magically by virtue of inner maturity, by virtue of purity of intent, then we can avoid a whole lot of suffering, even though that's not our intention. But we will avoid a whole lot of suffering because we're course correcting ourselves. Wisdom. The wisdom to recognize the transient from the timeless, or the finite from the infinite, or that which will end anyway, and that which never ends. And over time, suffering, inquiring, we more and more want what that gravitational pull already wants for us. And we stop misinterpreting that gravitational pull in the form of, I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. Those are all misinterpretations, misprojections of what's already wanted on our behalf. And wisdom, maturity, is the ability to surrender to that, to want what God already wants for itself, which is what you are. So, how does judging yourself benefit you? Do you still want it?
I do not.
Why?
It's of no benefit.
Because it's of no benefit?
Sorry?
Because it's of no benefit?
Because it's of no benefit.
And that's clear to you?
It is.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, so no need to judge yourself.
No need.
So next time the habit arises, you'll very quickly catch it and you're like, oh. Anything that you have seen through as being nonsensical, you can no longer believe and invest in. It's very simple. You always go in a direction that you believe contains benefit. Always. You cannot believe in something you don't believe in. Right? How do you believe in something you don't believe in? You can't. So if something, another way of saying that, if something stops making sense to you, it might still arise. The manifestation of it might arise. The temptation of it might arise. The suggestion of it might arise. The thought or habit about it might arise. But once you've seen through the illusion that it makes sense or contains benefit, same thing. It only makes sense if it contains benefit, right? Instinctively, intuitively. Something makes sense to us if it contains benefit. So if we see that it no longer contains benefit and never actually did, then we can't believe in it anymore. We can't believe in that suggestion to take that road because we know where it ends up. That's the power of the question. And then what?